Welcome to Color Me in Sound, where we illuminate the brilliance of Black women in the arts of amplifying creativity and elevating Black voices. I'm your host, Angel Taylor, and today we are honored to have Phylisha Gold, a multi-talented novelist, artist, poet, playwright, screenwriter, and educator. Phylisha's work, spanning novels, children's books, and more, focuses on providing a path for healing, wholeness, and purpose. Get ready to be inspired, uplifted, and immersed in the rich tapestry of Phylisha Gold's creativity. Let's color our world with sound. Hello, Miss Phylisha.
Hello, how are you?
Good. So glad to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me.
It is so cool that you were reading so early, and I'm really curious. What was it like for you as a kid when you discovered the power of words? And how did that early fascination turn into all the incredible things that you're doing now?
So I have to be honest with you. I don't think I really understood a lot of that. It was not happening to me. I was just kind of in the zone. I share in my memoir that I also am on the spectrum,
Oh,
autistic spectrum. And so
wow.
even though that they tested me multiple times and they said that I was quote unquote, on the genius level, they
Yeah.
didn't go to that next level to find out, that I had some other things going on. So I grew up kind of in my own little world. And I was not aware that other people didn't have the same things and could do the same things that I could do. So I can't really say that I was just like overwhelmed with it. It was just that's just who I was. And I was, strange and I was weird and I loved words and I'd listened to my father tell stories, the greatest storyteller ever. And I would just find myself in that space, and that's kind of where I was, and it was just a little different.
Wow. How motivating. Oh my goodness. So behind the scenes, you mentioned Claire Huxtable. And honestly, she's an icon, right? So what
Yes.
was it about her that really grabbed you? And how do you see that influence playing out in your work, especially when you're tackling those tougher topics?
So being on the spectrum, especially if you're high masking, which they don't really like that term anymore, but that's the only thing that I can really communicate to people.
Yeah.
You get different per- aspects of your personality from different places. And so
Okay.
what loved about Claire was that she owned everything about herself, you
Did
know?
she not? She
She
did.
was she was sexy, she was intelligent, she knew that she deserved love.
Yeah.
She was a good friend and she had good friends, but she was also goofy.
Right.
And she didn't shrink to fit into rooms that were too small for her. She
Mm,
remained big, she had all of these talents. She could
yeah.
sing, she could dance, and and she also what I really, really loved about her, she harnessed her anger
Hey.
and she didn't allow it to take her emotionally somewhere else. She sat with it, understood what she was feeling, and
Yeah.
then she was able to communicate that to people. And I think that's what I love the most about her because sometimes I would feel things and I wouldn't know what I was feeling. And um, when I was younger, I really didn't know how to communicate that. And so sometimes I
Yeah.
just wouldn't. And so when I saw Claire, I was like, yeah, yeah, that's who I want to be. And I think she shows up in everything I write, honestly. I really do. So,
And it's so funny that you talk about her about even with her anger because yesterday one of my cousins and I talked about the time that Vanessa wanted to drink and
mm,
she said, "Oh, you want to drink?" So she
Hmm.
had Vanessa there drinking. And in that moment, just with her class and her dignity, she handled it so well as a mother where that could have went all the way left with someone else, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just thought that, man, all of these women that I saw along the way, there was another woman that I knew that was in local to me, and she was a judge. And my first time seeing her, I was a little girl sitting in auditorium and looking at her, and I was like, I don't know what she does,
Uh-huh.
but I need to be that, whatever she
Yeah.
is, and
Yeah.
because where I grew up, there was not a lot of people that looked like me.
Okay.
And there definitely, and those that did look like me didn't sound like me.
Okay.
And so I always was looking for um someone to, I think, validate that
Okay.
I was okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And when this woman, when Judge LaGrange got up on the stage and she was so articulate and she was,
Mm.
oh my goodness, I was like, okay, yes,
Yes.
yes, and
Okay.
so there were different women along the way that I just fell in love with. And then when I got to a certain age and I realized that I wanted to participate in Greek organizations, and I found out they were all in the same oh my goodness. There
Mm-hmm.
was only one choice for me at that point. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Your work has this really interesting blend of realness and hope, and sometimes even humor, right? Because these are the things
Yes.
that you channeled also. How do you find that balance? Because it feels so genuine.
I can be funny, but I'm not trying to be funny. I'm a stalker. So
Oh,
so when I am in the grocery store, you think somebody's listening to you, it's me. I'm
okay.
listening.
Okay.
And so because I do love conversation and I do love words and I love accents and I love, how to watch how people respond, how they hold their heads, and I
Yes.
just observe people. And the reality of it is that life is not all sad, it's not all drama, it's not
Right.
all action, it's a combination of those things. And in our community, we tend to make jokes,
Yeah.
so life is funny. And
Mm-hmm.
even when it's hard, you can find some humor in it. And I try to instill that into every type of work that I produce, because, I don't want anybody to ever walk away without the one thing that I want to always promote, and which is hope.
Yeah.
There's always hope.
Right.
There's
Okay.
always hope.
And so with hope, I know that that's a big theme for you. Why
Mhm.
do you think it's so important to shine a light on resilience even when things get really dark?
Because, this human experience and this human experience experiment is replete with all kinds of things at all times. And some would say that we're going through some strong times right now, some different cold times right now, but I am a firm believer that it is always darkest before the dawn.
Yeah.
I'm also a firm believer that we have the power to create our reality. And because of the things I've gone through, if you've had a chance to check out my memoir, because of the things that I've experienced, I've never, or I can say it like this, I've been young and I've been old,
Mm.
but I've never seen the righteous forsaken. And
Right.
so, even in my darkest times, there was always something inside of me said that, better is on the way. Keep going,
Mm.
keep pushing. And
Hmm.
there's been some really dark times, especially recently, but there was something that let me know that tough times don't last always.
Right. Right. Listen, this is, I feel the Holy Spirit in here.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes. So, um, you talked about the gift of the process, right? When we talked
Mm.
before, and I think a lot of us can relate to that. How do you bring those real raw experiences into your writing, especially with text, tea, and tragedy?
Oh my gosh, you know what? You're about to tap into my major autism like tangent right now. I am so in love with this book. Not to
Okay.
say that I'm not in love with all of my books, but just to kind of give you some background. I used to be very obsessed with puzzles as a child,
Okay.
right? And so that love turned into a love of mysteries,
Mm-hmm.
and then that turned into something where I was the person that, if you wanted to find out a guy's number, if you wanted to find out where somebody worked, if you wanted to find, like, that was my thing. I would figure out everything. I was that girl. And so I go
Oh
to
my goodness,
sleep.
Detective Phil. We know who to get on the
Absolutely.
job.
Absolutely. I miss my calling so many times, but I used to fall asleep to watching NCIS. Like, I felt comfort in solving problems.
Okay.
And I never wrote a mystery. And I
Mm.
didn't understand that. And so when I first started out with this book, it was a romance, and yeah, I'm not that girl. So I was gonna try it, but that's not me.
Okay.
So there's romance in there, but it's definitely, this is definitely reflective of me. I am not the kissy huggy sweet. Oh,
Oh,
yay. I
that
am, but it's uncomfortable.
that is so funny because I get the warm and huggy fuzzies from you.
Okay, so I'd lie. So so
I'm like,
I really am. I'm cuddly, I'm huggy, I like to, do that kind of thing. But when I watch movies, something got to blow up. I need to see, I
okay.
need some shooting, I need some pew 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 pew,
Yes,
and
yes.
so um I don't know how to communicate that in text, right? Because
Yeah.
that's just, it deals with feelings, and I have not a lack of them. I have a lot of them.
Mm,
And so it's kind of hard sometimes for me to get that. And so um that's why I think I lean more towards comedy, because
yeah.
it's like, I'm the person, if I love you, I may hit you. I mean, it's just it's like, I love you, smack. No,
Right.
I'm just playing.
These are love taps,
Yes,
okay?
but and I'm gonna show it, but with this one here, Bella Hawkins, we're gonna be together for a while. Dr.
Okay.
Bella Hawkins is she's me, but she's not me. In
Mm-hmm.
that she's still trying to find herself.
Okay.
She moves to a small town after a horrible breakup that bless her heart, cause see, it couldn't have been me. Okay.
Right, right.
It couldn't have been me, bless her heart. And she is trying to figure out, even at her age, and she's not a child, she's not in her 20s. She's still trying to figure out what her gift is and what her
Mm-hmm.
purpose is. Um, and it takes, and what I've learned in my own personal life, it takes a lot of closed doors. We're
Yeah.
talking about the process. It takes a lot of no's. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
heartbreaks.
Yes.
It takes a lot of friendships going bad.
Mm,
It takes a lot of people misusing you and abusing you to close those doors to kind of get you into the place where you're supposed to be.
yeah.
And she's finally gotten to that point where she's ready to explore who
Okay.
she really is. And so it is a love story. It is a
Okay.
mystery. Um, but it may not necessarily be the love story people are hoping for, but it's the one we all need.
Okay.
And so she where we all also similar is that she's that go-to person. You want somebody to figure out something, she's gonna figure it out because she gets obsessed. She can't think of anything else until she's figured it out. And I've already plotted the next 5 books in the series.
Uh-huh.
And I'm ready to ride with Miss Dr. Bella
All
and see where this
right.
is gonna go. And she has a best friend. Her name is Twee. Twee is a Filipino, and
Okay.
Twee is. Mhm. We
Uh-huh.
don't talk like me, so I do want to caution people. Tweet's got a little nasty mouth, and so she
Okay.
say bad words a lot.
Oh. Mm,
Just say a lot of bad words. Uh, there's Azim. He's one of the love interests, and he is from Morocco. I
yeah,
wanted to show the diaspora,
right.
and darkness and dark skin and blackness all across the world. And so
Yeah.
you see some of that. We also have some Dominicans in
Oh,
there. So, and they're all going through the process, is what I'm saying. So it
okay.
all comes down to um us growing from one point and going to another point to end up where we were supposed to be the whole time.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I feel like you getting to write all these characters is giving you freedom to of expression, right? With a lot
Yeah.
because you can choose how you want a certain person to be, and
Hmm.
even though people portray them one way, you can portray them another way and make them a nasty.
I again, like I said, I'm a stalker. So, but not only am I a stalker, I have had the great pleasure of meeting, I would say, hundreds of thousands of people. And I think a piece of them stays with me when I meet with people.
Yeah,
And so I think that a lot of my characters are combinations of people that I've passed by, or that
right.
maybe I sat behind on the bus, or that I might have been in the grocery store and I just laughed and it was like,
Mm.
oh, okay.
Ah,
And so
uh-huh.
I don't think any one person's gonna be like, oh my God, that's me. No.
Right, right, right.
There's a lot of people in there, but I wanted it to be authentic to who I am.
Okay.
And I have to be really honest about that. And I do want to make the difference because I was working on a project with a film company a couple of years ago, and we ended up terminating that relationship because that particular person was like, well, people aren't going to understand this, and we don't talk like that. And I was like,
Wow.
I talk like that,
Yeah,
and everybody I know talks like that,
right,
and this is my experience. And so I write for people who are like me.
right.
Um, and it is sometimes scary because, growing up, I had you know, the white girl, they call me
Yeah.
that. And,
Uh-huh.
they call me, I wasn't black enough. Sometimes I was too black. Like,
All
I
right,
had all these different things going on. And so it was scary to
right.
write, um, where I felt like people could connect. And so a very wise person told me that your people are out there,
Yes,
and the reason why they're going to connect with you is because nobody writes for them either.
right.
I
That
don't
is so
have some
true.
stories, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have it. And I can't connect with that. Like when people, I think they have like on social media and they talk about raise your hand if your mama did this and your mom did. I never get whoopings. I don't know what they feel like, so I've never been hit with a stick. So
Right,
I don't know that, but I've had some horrible things happen, and I've
right.
had some things
Okay,
happen to me, but that's not my experience.
right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I wanted to just be authentic to, um, I think, a niche of people who get overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wanted to break the idea that being an African American is a monolith.
Right, right.
We're not. We're um Bella, she struggles with a
Mm,
lot of things, and I'm not telling too much about the book, but she struggles with her spirituality.
right.
She struggles with her calling. Um, but she struggles with accepting that she's different because Bella also has autism.
Okay, because that's what I was getting
Yeah,
into that. And
yeah,
just with you talking about spirituality, and I know that you have a morning ritual, right?
I do.
And starting your day with
I do.
prayer and anointing your tools. So let's talk about that. How does that
Okay.
influence your mindset and creativity?
it keeps me it keeps me tethered to my faith.
Yeah.
Um, because when you go into different worlds when you're writing, for me, you can get so deep into
Right.
it that you begin to kind of lose your authenticity because you do want to try, you want to be true, but you also want to write something that people want to read. So you
Mm-hmm.
want to, you have some terms you want to use. You want to put some scenarios in there that, people are going to be able to identify with. But at the same time, you don't want to do it just for commercial
Right.
purposes, right?
Right.
Because that's the struggle. That's the struggle. I'm also a singer, and so I'm working on a project now, and
Okay.
that's the challenge to, I want to create what's in me, but you also want to create things that people want to hear,
Right.
right? So I start my day in prayer. I start my day in devotion to remind myself that it's not about me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't go, yes, I got degrees in English, I've taught English, I teach writing, but this gift is not mine. It
Yes.
was given to me.
Yes.
And so since it was given to me, it is my duty to give it back. Um and there was a struggle there because, like, for instance, when I talk about Twee has a horrible mouth, horrible mouth. And I was like, well, Lord, people that know me, they're going to be like, "Ooh, that doesn't sound like you." And I'm like, well,
Uh,
it's not me, right?
right. Right.
But I think that if they get on the journey with Bella and Twee and the other people in the book, they'll understand that when we meet each other, we're not going to end up where we meet each other.
Yeah.
And we have to allow people to be authentically who they are.
Right.
And I don't know anybody who doesn't have a friend just like this. And you're just like, Lord help us. She just, oh my God, you know.
Yeah, I feel like I have a couple of friends like that.
But when it's all said and done, when it's time for you to be supported, to be
Yeah.
loved, that person is there. And so they are walking in the giftings of love,
Yeah.
whether they sound like it or not. And I think that they influence each other,
Yeah.
you know. And Twee helps Bella become a little bit more bold,
Okay.
and Bella helps Twee become a little bit more grounded.
Okay.
And so I wanted to show the totality of the human experience. And for me to be able to do that and not go too far to the left or to the right, I had to make sure my relationship was solid
Right.
and that it's always solid, because it's not just about my books, because I do pray over everything that I write. When I go to meet people on book tours, I always want to be sensitive to what God wants me to tell them in that moment, because
Okay.
this is my ministry.
Yes.
And I think these are just tools to get me into spaces with people, to be
Okay.
able to show them that not only is there always hope, but there is a person out there that is waiting for them to come home.
Uh-huh. Wow. Listen, we going to church today. I already told them that. So I hope they were ready. So you told me earlier that you admire so many multi-talented Black creatives. What is it about their journeys that really resonates with you, and how does it push you to explore different creative paths?
Oh, wow. I love this era that we're in right now.
Okay.
When I grew up in the 80s, might not look like it. No, but I'm just teasing. But when I grew up in the 80s, I'm just gonna tell this story
All
because I'm a
right,
storyteller. I'm
all
gonna
right,
tell
let
this
us hear
story.
it. We want
Okay.
to hear it.
So I have this thing about, or I did, or maybe I do. That's not where I'm going. Focus. Okay, so about dark-skinned men.
Okay.
Yeah, love it, right? And so there was this guy that I was like, "Oh my God, he's yo," right?
Oh,
And so he came over and he was talking to me and everything. He said something to me and it crushed me for like 5 years. He said, "You would be so cute if you weren't dark."
oh, see ya
And I
today,
was
huh?
like, "Oh, I don't know, irrelevant." But
Okay, right,
that it because remember, you're talking to an autistic person who doesn't know something exists until you show it to her, right?
yeah.
So I never knew that I was dark. And I never
Mm,
knew, and I'm not saying it's true, but I didn't know that my skin tone would determine whether or not I was attractive or not.
right,
And so now I start seeing it everywhere, right? Because you just told me this is what this was.
right.
And so growing up, I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me on TV.
Mm,
And I didn't see a lot of characters that looked like me on TV. And
okay,
so I love this era that we're in now because we are out and we have natural hair, we have relaxed hair, we have
right.
locks, we have braids, and we're out and we're so free to just
Mm-hmm.
be. And it has healed some of those hurtful spaces in my life,
Okay.
to be able to see others not being afraid. Like I used to hate my gap. I wouldn't smile, you know. Um,
Okay.
thought my lips were too big. Everything was I had a problem. I remember one time a guy called me Michael Jackson because I had curly hair.
Oh
And
my
I
goodness.
wore a weave for 20 years after that, right? And
Yeah.
so I love this era and the creatives have helped, like I said, heal that space in me where now I'm okay with me.
Okay.
And I'm learning to not just be okay, but to love her
Okay.
and hopefully to be an example to other people to love themselves as well.
Very nice. Listen, this is so inspiring. I hope the audience is going to be inspired when they listen to this. So your memoir from conception to birth must
Mm.
have been such a powerful experience. What did you learn about yourself through that process?
So, um, ooh, I got into the ministry very early in life. I was about 19 years old. And my very first sermon was called uh, Birthing Baby Promise.
Okay.
And I knew when I, ministered that word or taught it, um, that it was bigger than what I had just done, right? And I think the next time I preached or something like that, it was like, "Who's your baby daddy?" or something. It was something really crazy, but I knew that was something was there. Um, and I kept saying, "That's going to be a book. That's got to be there's it's bigger than what I'm thinking it is." But I wasn't released to write it, to sit down because I had to live to the point where I had to birth something.
Yeah.
And it was something big. And so I didn't have at 19, I didn't have the experience to write it. Like God could have given it to me, but I didn't have that life experience to back it up. And so I think that life experience is the equivalent to anointing because you cannot get anointing or oil comes from crushing.
Yeah.
You can't get the oil out of the olive unless it's crushed. And so in my crushing, the anointing to be able to actually write that happened many, many years and throughout the journey. So about 25 years later, from then, I'm writing this book. Now, the funny thing, and not funny, haha, but ironic, um, I was in a car accident a couple years ago. And it was the slowest, softest car accident that could have ever happened. I was in a parking space. A guy backed into me. I was
Mm.
leaning halfway out of the car and I saw it. I was like, this dude about to hit this dude. He just hit me. Look at this
Oh
mess right
my
here.
goodness. And you saw it coming.
I said, because he went forward first. So he hit the wall first and then he hit me. And I was, this dude. So, and I had just come back. I kid you not. I had just come back from Woman Evolve. It was in Arlington, Texas. And I was, just like feeling, oh, yes, we about to get it. We about to get it. This is it. This is it. This is it. And then boom, really? So we went through that process. The next day I wasn't feeling well. Went to the hospital. They did a CT scan, found out I had that I was okay. They didn't see any major damage. I was sore. Um, Weeks go by. Kept talking about my ear. Something wrong with my ear. What's wrong with my ear? I was dropping stuff and everything. And so one night I fell asleep with my watch on my phone, my wrist. And when I woke up, there was a message on my wrist that said, your walking steadiness is off. You're due for a fall soon. And I was like,
What?
that's creepy.
Right.
So I'm in my office. I was in here, and about a week later, and I fell. And when I fell, I hit my head, and some things fell off the shelf, and it hit my head. And me being who I am, I drove on to work and went on about my business. When I got to work, a lady in my department, she said, what's wrong with you? And I was like, nothing. And she's like, something's not right. So I ended up leaving. I drove to the hospital and found out I had a brain injury. By December of that year, I couldn't even speak. I couldn't
What?
get full sentences out of my mouth. They had me on medicine for dementia. I had problems walking. Um, I was, then I started going into depression because the one thing I've always had was my mind, right? Because I could think myself through anything. And so
Yeah.
I was faced with not knowing if who I was and who I thought I loved was ever gonna be there, right? And I didn't know what that was gonna look like. And I was angry and I was hurt and I was confused. But I had this book I had to write. And I got up every morning and I was like, I'm just gonna try. And I'm just gonna try. And I would forget words and I would get mad and start crying. I was like, I don't know what the word is. Because speaking was hard, but I was able to type and I was able to think. So was able to get this book out. And I believe that that was the birthing of the book, but birthing and going through the promise and the process. And so um, that particular book talks about how God ministered to me through the birth of all my children, but
Mhm.
also how different birthings of different types of giftings and processes and promises come through. So um, that one was a rough one, and I'm still, healing on this side of it, but it was something I had to walk through. And I hope that that's communicated through the pages because it was definitely a labor of love and an example of that there ain't nothing easy about giving birth.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
Oh my goodness. So looking ahead, what do you envision for the future of your creative work? What impact do you hope to leave on the world? And what kind of legacy do you hope to build?
To quote my favorite rapper, I want it all. I want it all. Anything that's
Yeah.
artistic, I want, and that would be Kendrick Lamar, just in case you didn't know. Um, but I want it all. I want to I want to write books, more books. I want to write movies. I want to go back and I used to do stage plays. I want to continue to write stage plays. I do want to have a stage play on Broadway. That's one thing I do want to do. Um, I want to release my music. I don't know if you can see it, there's a painting back there. I paint. And so I want to
Okay.
continue to do that. I want to leave this world. This is my legacy. This is what I want. I want to leave this world empty. And I want my legacy to be that I allowed God to use everything I had. Everything that He invested in me, I gave it back to Him. And by the time that I was done, I was done. And I hope that that is inspiration to others who feel like, man, I can do different things. I think you can do it all. And
Yeah.
He gets glory from that. And so wherever He wants to take me, I'm willing to go and ride it out and see what the end will be.
Nice. Well, I'm getting ready to hit my last question, but listen, maybe you could just hum us a little something so we could hear
Ooh.
that voice, or drop a little two lines.
Oh wow. No, that was not expected. Let's see.
And I know I put her on the spot, y'all, so don't judge her in this
You're
moment.
right, don't
Do
judge me.
not.
I gotta that it's not even about doing it, it's about me thinking of something to sing.
Ah,
Uh I love you, Jesus. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Lord, I love you more than anything.
love
That's it.
that. That was beautiful.
Yeah,
That was beautiful.
thank you.
Um, what would you say to other Black women who are trying to carve out their own unique paths?
Do it. Do it. Afraid.
Yes.
I'm about to cry. Do it alone. Do it if nobody supports you.
Mm,
Do it if you don't know how it's going to be received. Do it if people criticize you.
mhm,
Do it if you don't have the money. Just do it. Do it and see what the end will be.
yeah, 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 yeah. Because you never know how far you'll go unless you try, right?
You got to do it. You have to do it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here. So
Thank you for having
please
me.
share your social media platforms and your website with our audience so everyone will know where to find you.
But for right now, we're transitioning. I'm pretty sure it's gonna have Phylisha Gold in there somewhere. So the website, you can go to my social media platforms, and there is a QR code and a link. But we're going to be moving to a new site, so it'll be there. But on TikTok, I am Novelty with Phylisha T. On Instagram, I believe it's Novelty with Phylisha T. On Facebook, I am author Phylisha Gold. But you can Google me.
Oh, oh,
I'm out there.
let's
Google me.
listen. All right.
Google
Okay.
me. No.
Google, okay.
Google
Google,
me. I'm there.
Google,
No.
Google her.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Y'all heard that. Well, thank you so much for being here today and spending this time with me. I
Thank you
know,
for having me.
I sure am leaving inspired. So I think you hit the mark on that.
Well, good. I'm glad. Thank you so
All
much
right.
for having me. I can't wait to interact, and I can't wait for the world to meet Dr. Bella Hawkins.
Yes, I can't wait either. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Color Me and Sound, amplifying creativity, elevating Black voices. We hope you were inspired by Phylisha Gold's incredible journey as we were. Remember, your voice matters, your story is powerful, and your creativity is a gift to the world. Be sure to follow Phylisha Gold and support her work. You can find links to her website, PhyliciaGold.mycanva.site, and all her social media platforms, including Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, in our show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to Color Me and Sound wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, keep creating, keep shining, and keep coloring your world with sound.